Nalanda University and surrounding agro-ecosystems. Under today's theme, soil versus silicon, this study firmly stands in the favor of soil, as I believe no technology, no advancement, no machines can replace the living foundation of life, that is soil. The research highlights a major environmental gap. While productivity continues to depend on soil, detailed site-specific assessment of soil degradation and contamination remains neglected in regions like Nalanda, where extensive agriculture is being practiced. Most discussions focus on increasing production, but very little attention is given to what the soil itself is losing over time. The findings of this study reveal a very worrying reality. Widespread nitrogen and potassium deficiency showed that soil is becoming nutritionally exhausted. These are not just numbers. This is a warning sign by soil itself that the system that feeds us is under stress. And while silicon may create smarter machines, faster technologies, it cannot create a fertile earth like soil can. This study reminds us that civilizations rise on healthy soils and decline when those soils are neglected. Technologies may support development, but soil remains irreplaceable. Without healthy soil, there is no food, there is no agriculture, and therefore there is no us. So I believe this should not be a soil versus silicon debate. This should always be an agenda of soil and silicon together and how it can help us build a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyajan. Now proceed to next speaker. I now invite Parijat Rachit, representing the Purpach.
Thank you, moderator. Give me this space. This dissertation focusing on the machine learning and satellite imagery data to assess the soil health and nutrient status for precision agriculture. And today I stand in soil support of soil. Soil is the foundation of life. It provides us the food, supports water supply, and recycle the nutrients and support biodiversity and climate also. So without healthy soil, there is no agriculture. So without agriculture, there is no food. Without food, there is no human civilization. So this research conducted in the Indo-Gangetic plains, where results are come out that almost maximum soil organic carbons are below 0.50%. That is the below the critical level, and 90% of soil samples are degraded structurally, and more of the regions are need the emergency soil health assessment and site-specific soil management also. So so now come to the points considered the SLICO. The SLICO represents the technology including the computer chips and modern data and digital tools. Here technology can helps us to analyze the data, and artificial intelligence helps us to predict the soils, and but no technology can grow any grain of rice or wheat without soil health. So in my conclusions, I want to say in simply, if we lost our soil, then we lost our food. If we lost our food, then we lost our future. So I would like to end with one statement. The most advanced technology is meaningless if soil can no longer feed humanity. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you to the speakers from the Purpach. Now we move to the Uttarpach.
I now invite Majmooma Saleh, representing the Uttar Paksh, to pose her views.
Okay, I want to start our conversation with this sentence. Soil asks to kneel and silicon asks to fly. Because in my 4th semester dissertation work, I have done my work completely remote sensing and machine learning investigation, and that data is studied 30-kilometer Himalayan region in Bias Valley, Manali. At the same time, I tracked 11 years data from 2015 to 2025. I extract urban heat in this valley region, and I build a machine learning random forest modeling which showed me 85% of snow declining rate under the supervision of 3,844 pixels. So as I told this is possible only for silicon. So maybe my another friends can tell me that no, silicon cannot touch, as satellite data cannot touch this earth. But I am agree with them, satellite data cannot touch this earth or feel this earth. But which soil does, satellite data cannot does. But at the same time, I want to say that with the help of satellite data, you can detect the actual problem. What we feel right now, we can't measure the actual problem, what is happening in the Himalaya and what is happening in the Antarctic. So the earth is dying faster than what we feel. We need that tools to explore our actual problem, the hotspot, the region. So we need that tool, and I mentioned the satellite data. In my dissertation, I use 5 different satellite data, and finally I got the result, which is R-square result, as I told earlier, 0.857%. And I can say that one satellite data measures the entire Himalayan regions, and this is completely free and no bindings, and at the same time no high altitude sickness. So I am saying that I am not against about field scientists. Field scientists are still field scientists, no one can replace them. But satellite data as silicon, as technology, direct them what should do, what should not to do, and when it should start, where we should go, and how we can measure this data. I want to say that soil
Thank you,
is the
Salen.
depth.
Thank you so much. I now invite Ivanaldo Chase, representing the Uttar Paksh, to pose his views.
Thank you, moderator. We know the impacts of tropical cyclones on infrastructures and society, but what are the impacts on biodiversity? I addressed this question through this dissertation titled Tropical Cyclone in Key Biodiversity Areas of Mozambique, a geospatial framework for conservation policy and disaster risk reduction. Tropical cyclones are warm core, low pressure systems that often come with strong wind and heavy rainfall, therefore opening a space for floods. And key biodiversity areas are sites in which we find endemic species, we find threatened species, as well as important ecosystems. In Mozambique, we have 29 key biodiversity areas. However, before this study, we didn't have any research assessing the interaction between tropical cyclones and key biodiversity areas. We did different. We assessed the impacts using GIS. GIS can only be used through technological devices. And to obtain these technological devices, we have to explore silicon, which is the raw material for the production of these technologies. Apart from the scientific results, we brought recommendations in form of policies. That's why tonight I defend that we have to maximize the exploration of silicon.
Thank you, Ivan. Now we move to Prashn and Prati-Prashna segment. So, Uttar Paksh, if you have any prashn, please ask to Purv Paksh.
So I have a question to Parijat Rakshi, that as he mentioned about soil fertility and so on, so we know for the blessing of silicon seeds our modern civilization, we have hydroponics and aeroponics. So how soil is important, more than important, this technology?
Thank you for your question, Mimi. Actually, technologies are more impressive, but those are not replace of soil. Actually, almost, according to FAO information, almost 95% of soil comes from, food production comes from soil. And less than 1% comes from any other controlled environment, or as like hydroponic or aeroponics. So, and soil also cover almost 25% of world biodiversity, support for nutrient and or other things.
Okay, I have another prashna to Kaushik Kumar Das. That is, you mentioned about mangrove forest and that thing. So, if you say that soil is enough, so why use technology in your research?
I'm repeating the same answer, that technology measured the data, but soil stored the carbon. Soil does the real climate work. Thank you.
I have a question for Priya. In your presentation, you said that soil is naturally powerful and resistant. So now I ask, why is it degrading so rapidly in the present days?
Due to human activities and increasing population, the productivity dependence has also increased, but the agricultural production has not increased in that rapid rate. Hence, the excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides to increase productivity has caused over time soil degradation. The study findings included most of the soil samples that we took included soil quality indices being calculated. According to them, the soil quality has degraded a lot over the years. According to the ICAR threshold, the soil quality indices don't even hold up to 50% that they should. Hence, the human activities, increasing population, and lack of knowledge about how to do precision agriculture has led to overtime soil degradation.
I understand and agree till a certain point, but this is the era of AI. Why should we still discuss soil health?
The research highlights critical conditions in soil health, that is widespread of nitrogen and potassium deficiencies. Along with that, when I calculated the pollution load index and geochemical indices, those indices also suggested that the heavy metals like arsenic and mercury were present up to 5 times higher than the geogenic limit, which in turn tells us that the anthropogenic evidence of soil degradation has caused a huge effect on human health, as the food that we eat comes from that same soil which is continuously being degraded, and the heavy metals being accumulated in the soil can come to the food, and through the food it can directly affect human health and food security. Hence, technology is okay, technology is good for monitoring, but it cannot replace something that provides food, that is
Thank
soil.
you, Priya. Okay. Purv Paksh, if you have prashna, asks to Uttar Paksh.
So, Mazmumas, can you please tell me, can silicon replace human judgments in environmental science?
No. As I told earlier, we shouldn't try this because remote sensing, machine learning, AI, whatever that silicon product technology, it measures the data, but human will decide what exactly should do and synthesize this data according to their criteria, and with this help they can measure this ground truthing.
Thank you.
I want to ask a question to Ivan. Why is geospatial technology important for biodiversity conservation during cyclones?
Well, as you can see, we are in India, but we are discussing Mozambique in a certain part of this conversation. So this is one of the advantages of GIS. We don't have to go to the field in order to assess the impacts of tropical cyclones. Apart from that, we can evaluate the impacts of tropical cyclone in a large area.
So even technology can truly conserve biodiversity without local ecological knowledge?
No, when we talk about advancement of technologies, we are not forgetting the local knowledge. The local knowledge complements technologies.
Thank you.
I have a question to both of you. So what if the satellite data is wrong?
Every instrument has error, including our eyes. As I told earlier, silicon is an instrument. In my dissertation, I use MODIS data. I synthesize this data with quality flags and control that validation part. This is the blessing of this technology. We can do this. As in biased field researcher, they don't have that much mechanism to validate these things.
Okay. And after this enriching exchange of ideas, let us end this session with the mantra which talks about the outcomes of the Nalanda Shastra. Swadrishtirago apihi kalpaneva tathanya drishtava apiyascharoshah vidhuya ragam pratitham cha tasmat vicharyan shipram upaiti muktim. Thank you to both Pakshas for this wonderful scholarly discussion. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much, all the panelists and the supervisor, Dr. Shastri, big round of applause. Cease. Very well done. So now I request Professor Sarao to kindly come to the dais and felicitate our students. Please welcome him.
Madhyastha, Mr. Ritesh Kumar, MSc, second semester. Ms. Neha Kushwaha, MSc, second semester. Ms. Majmus Salen, MSc, fourth semester. Mr. Ivanaldo JJ from Mozambique, fourth semester. Kaushik Das from Bangladesh, fourth semester. Priya Jha, fourth semester, MSc. Parizat Rakshit from Bangladesh, MSc, fourth semester.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Sarao and the entire team of Dr. Shastri from School of Ecology and Environmental Studies. Big round of applause for them. Next, we move to the panel number 14, which is from School of Sustainability, School of Management Studies, led by Dr. Anand Kumar and Dr. Munir Magri. Please welcome the entire team with the two supervisors. The anchor for this panel is Shisha. Please welcome her.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
The theme of this panel is Profit or Planet? Can Developing Economies Truly Choose Both? The participants for this panel are Pradeep, Gautam, Somajit, Saubhagya, Saurabh, Ananya, Shravanti, Ashish, and and for today's panel we have with us the two Madhyastas, Stuti and Emmanuel, who will, and I now invite, the panel has been supervised by Dr. Anand and Dr. Munir. I now invite Dr. Anand to introduce the panel and move forward. Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. This panel is about profit and planet. Can developing economies truly choose both? And in this panel, we have Ashish, he is our alumni. He is joining us. Then we have Gautam Mishra, we have Soumyajit, Pradeep. Then we have Shravanti, Ananya, Saurabh, and then Shreya. Shreya is our first year student, and she will be representing Saubhagya, who is not well and he could not attend. So this panel is about can developing economies truly choose between profit and planet, and they will try to explore and put forward their arguments, which they have done during this their dissertation, that what is the way forward for the developing economies. And their dissertation is supervised by me and Dr. Munir, who is again in the School of Management Studies. We both have tried to supervise their dissertation, and they will be bringing some of the aspects from their dissertation. With this, warm wishes to the panel, and then I hand over the mic to the moderators and Madhyast.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin the debate, let's start with the chant. Navad lobhad vihito vicharas tatvantu shastre kathitam vimukte vyakhyayamane yadinam tatve bhidam gatanyam animatanya dosha.
Thank you. Once again, you are welcome to Nalanda-Shastrartha 2026. I'm Emmanuel, and together with my colleague Stuti, we are pleased to serve as the Madhyastas for this session. So as said earlier, in this session, we are going to have the two sides, that's the Purupaksha and the Uttapaksha, debate on the topic profit or planet. Can developing economies truly choose both? So on the side, the speakers for the Purupaksha, we have Pradeep, we have Soumyajit, we have Gautam, and Ashish. And those of the Uttapaksha, we have Shravanti, Saurabh, Ananya, and Shra Manav. So just to let you know that, please kindly adhere strictly to the time and then the rules of the debate. I would then quickly ask the first speaker for the Purupaksha to begin.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Pradeep, and my dissertation work includes studying of the water disclosure in terms of ESG disclosure, and I have mapped Nifty 100 companies BRSR report into predominantly water-intensive industry, and I have tried to study the quality of the water disclosure predicts the quality of the water disclosure, whether it predicts the environmental performance as well as the economic performance. So I have, for this I have done a panel data regression modeling where the water disclosure index, which I have derived from the BRSR report, taken as a dependent variable, and the return on assets as well as the water intensity improvement, which is how overall water usage by the industries as a independent variable. So while running the panel regression model, what I observed that the water disclosure does not predict the profitability as well as how, if the quality of improvement, if the industry are doing better quality of disclosure, it is not leading to improvement in the water usage of the industry. So, if we talk about the disclosure, so disclosure doesn't mean directly that is a sustainability. Sustainability is more than that. It requires lot of funds, lot of technology, commitment, policies, and if you talk about the current landscape or the historical emissions, what we have seen, so USA, United States of America, is leading into the
Pradeep,
cumulative.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll move on to the second speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Somajit, and I want to put the point forward that developing economies are often told to choose between profit and the planet. Hence, the theme of our debate actually fits the need of the hour. Well, my research shows that we do not have to choose anymore, as strong developments in the renewable energy sector with the advent of green hydrogen can be a good source, actually the next growing source of renewable fuel, and actually deliver both planet and focus on profitability as well. So my research has mostly focused on quantitative analysis, and the topic of my research has been analyzing the green hydrogen strategies of both India and Thailand to find a more collaborative approach or some kind of cooperation pathway for better cooperation between both the countries. So in my analysis, I've used Wright's formula where I have done a cost projection analysis which shows that the cost of the production of 1 kilo of hydrogen, which was around $6.5 in 2020, has been reduced down to around $4.5 by 2025, and also is expected to reduce to $1.5 by 2030 based on my analysis. So it shows that it's just not sustainable, but it's also economically competitive as well. So according to the International Solar Alliance, as renewable energy capacities grow from 95 gigawatt in 2020 to around 500 gigawatt by 2030, as mandated by the National Green Hydrogen Mission given by the Ministry of Renewable Energy, and also the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, the CBAM, which came in effect in January of 2026 after the historic India and European Union's trade deal, which focuses on Europe taxing out the highest carbon emitting imports and exports that are coming into Europe. So this transition becomes the need of the hour, from switching from non-renewable resources to more renewable sources for production and also managing our economic landscape as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We shall move on to the third. Yes.
Namaskar, I am Gautam Kumar Mishra, and my topic is I have analyzed the decarbonization practices in high-emitting industrial sectors in India. So as we know that Paris Agreement 2015 mandates to limit the global temperature below 1.5 degrees centigrade and to incorporate decarbonization practices to reach their set net zero goals. So I have, for this study, I have two objectives. First is to establish a relationship between the profitability and the net GHG emissions, and second is to project the net GHG emissions of the companies till the year 2030, which is SDG target year. So for this, I have selected 5 high-emitting sectors on the basis of their percentage net share in emissions, that are namely oil and gas, power, cement, steel, and transport. And the 28 companies of these 5 sectors were selected on the basis of their market cap and availability of data. Scope 1 and Scope 2 data were collected from the BRSR report of the companies along with their decarbonization practices. The tools that I have used is, I have used the longitudinal panel data regression model for the profitability and GHG emission relationship, and SBTI linear reduction model to project the net GHG emissions of the target of the companies by 2030 and to test the effectiveness of the decarbonization practices. So the results that came to me is that only 3% relation we can show about the profitability and net GHG emissions. So out of 100, 3 times we can say that increase in profitability is also causing increase in GHG emissions. Rest 97% is driven by other factors like technology used or the strategies used. Second is about through the SBTI linear reduction model, it is found that companies are decreasing in their net GHG emissions, all of the 5 sectors. And the decarbonization practices, they are mostly incorporating in themselves, like CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, and the incorporation of renewable energy. So the question is that it is not that companies can afford to decarbonize. No, the real question is, can they not do? Because the upcoming world, the companies who will incorporate the decarbonization practices, they will cut their net GHG emissions will be in the longer run. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. We move on to the third speaker, Ashish.
Good evening, everyone. After listening to all the theoretical and idealistic arguments of all my colleagues, I would like to discuss my analysis where I attempted to study the real-life behavior of Indian companies across some of the country's most environmentally insensitive sectors, such as oil and gas, agriculture, mining and metals, and cement and construction. So rather than relying on the broad sustainability narratives or the international frameworks, I evaluated companies through measurable biodiversity key performance indicators developed using internationally recognized frameworks such as GRI 304 and BRSR. These KPIs were intentionally designed by me to assess not just what companies say, but what they are actually willing to disclose and prioritize. It went around the willingness of companies to operate near ecologically sensitive areas, their disclosures and their allocations of budgets for biodiversity, whether they conduct ecological monitoring, and whether they integrate biodiversity into their operational models. So while I discussed about the companies, about the sectors, the top companies with the market capitalization, which I had selected, it was observed that most of the companies with higher capitalization, their disclosures were not that environmental friendly. They prioritize their profits. Talking about the sectors, oil and gas sector did the maximum disclosures, while we expected that agriculture would be the maximum, but it was the least. Hence, it is very evident and clear that it is not just the planet which is unimportant, it is also the profit. And in corporate reality, where
Ashish,
profit...
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, we then move on to the Uttapaksh, the first speaker, Shrabanti.
Namaskar. My name is Shrabanti. So my thesis was regarding ESG reporting and financed emissions, implications of climate-related risk and GHG accounting. So today here I stand for the planet perspective. Because while doing my internship and research on ESG, when I was studying about ESG reporting, financed emissions, scope 3, what I find out is that scope 3 is really complex. And while disclosing ESG reporting, it is that most of the industries, they are focusing on the operational profit, but not on the part on the environmental challenges and environmental cost, where scope 3 is really accounting for 70 to 80%. And the question is, profit without environmental accountability is really not development. It is a delayed destruction, firstly. Secondly, is that will climate disaster really wait, and the impact of the climate disaster like floods, heat waves, all the things, and the impacts of these will really wait for the GDP growth, and how we are accounting for this climate disasters, and we are keeping operational profit over a healthy living planet, because there is no economy on a dead planet. So we should definitely prioritize environmental sustainability over profit, because in the pursuit of the profit, we are forgetting the challenges from the environmental perspective. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so my colleague had already revealed the hidden environmental cost buried inside the supply chain and financial systems. So during my consulting work across multiple projects at a sustainability consulting firm, produced findings that cuts through everything the profit side has argued today. So working across multiple real projects, including a direct assessment of the international oil and gas operators, decarbonization pathway, a carbon accounting study covering multiple industrial configurations, and an evaluation of the listed companies against India's mandatory environmental disclosures frameworks, every finding came across from a live client brief. And what that work confirmed exactly is what this side has been arguing. The profit side told us that the clean energy costs are failing and strategy determines carbon destiny. The carbon accounting study tells a different story from the inside. The operator assessed was decarbonizing, but only because they were losing access to international capital market and that was the greater threat. The planet was not a priority. It was a pressure point. That is not the accountability that my first colleague demanded. And this is a firm protecting its profit by wearing sustainability as an armor. So, and also when the listed companies were assessed, the firms with genuine environmental integration were identical, every single one, to those with the international investors. Remove that external pressure and the armor comes off. The remaining showed adequate format compliance but poor data quality, implausibly rounded figures and no independent verification. So the profit side has showed us failing costs and companies decarbonizing, but the fieldwork shows what drives them, not conscience, not strategy, not planet, but the fear of losing the capital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anonapol.
Starting with the spirit of Nalanda's ancient tradition, Shastrartha, where knowledge meets purpose. Good evening, respected everyone. So the question is, profit or planet? The study shows strategy can deliver both. India has made history with its mandatory CSR law in 2013, where eligible companies have to spend 2% of their net profit in social responsibilities. Billions of rupees invested everywhere in social development, rural livelihoods, education, healthcare. But the planet is still struggling. So the question comes, is there any better architecture? In 2011, Porter and Kramer showed the creating shared value, where business can deliver both economic and social opportunities. In the study, evaluate the comparative effectiveness of CSR and CSV, which adopt 100 projects within 20 companies across 9 sectors within the 5 dimensions: business linkages, economic dimensions, social impact, environment, and governance. So the study shows that CSB performs 46% higher in overall all dimensions than CSR. And the most important one, the social impact, where p-value is same for both the CSR and CSV. This shows that strategy will not reduce the social impact. And CSV adopting firm shows 31% net higher profit than CSR net adopting firms. You should not go far higher. You can see the Nalanda's initiative, the Sahbagita approach, where local communities included with the shared value strategy. It's the thin line that will reduce the empowerment and charity. It's not a donation, not a strategy. Just creating shared value with the local communities. So the developing countries can choose both. And we can say, just say we can't see the social responsibility for as just a philanthropy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nona Paul. We move on to the last speaker for the Uttapaksh. Shreya.
Namaskar, my name is Shreya. So, sitting here today, the same land where Kautilya wrote Arthashastra, when we debate planet or profit, what are we really debating? Are we really debating something new, or have we forgotten something that has already existed? This research by Saubhagya shows the latter. 2300 years ago, Kautilya had already built what we today call sustainability governance. He called forest governance One Niti, what GRI, which is Global Reporting Initiative, 304 calls biodiversity disclosure, and Das Gupta calls natural capital accounting. Kautilya had already institutionalized it. He called water governance as Jal Niti, mapping to GRI, again Global Reporting Initiative 303, which is water stewardship. Labor practices as Shram Niti, public health as Arogya Niti, and enforcement as Dand Niti. This dissertation maps all these 12 frameworks against GRI universal standards, India's BRSR, which is Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, TCFD, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, and CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project. We have found structural equivalence across all three pillars of ESG, environmental, social, and governance, at the level of specific disclosures and not just broad terms. The point is that these disclosures are not some Western interventions. The mechanisms for environmental accountability, social protection, and governance transparency has always been in our ancient tradition. We must draw from this indigenous and ethical governance intelligence to strengthen the contemporary ESG implementations. Planet and profit are not opposites, they actually complement each other. And Kautilya proved that an economy can be productive, just, and ecologically conscious all at once. Thank you.
Very much, Shreya, and thank you to both sides, the Puru Pakshana and the Uttar Pakshana. Now we then go on to the questions, which is the Prashna and the Prati Prashna. We then, just to also remind you, kindly stay and stick to time, 15 seconds, and then 30 seconds to respond. Now, I'll give chance to the Uttar Paksh to post your Prashna.
So, as Purva Paksha talk about decarbonization and profit, so how would you justify that profit can protect climate disasters like floods, heat waves, and all the natural climate disasters? How would you justify that?
It's not about justification. Profitability is one of the core pillars that of any company. So through the profit, we can develop the climate resilient infrastructure. We can do the adaptation, the capacity building programs, and we can do many more. Because any adaptation or any mitigation process, if we have to go with that, what is we need? The first thing that we need is money, and that will come through profit. So profitability doesn't justify it. Profitability is just a method to prevent it and to show the way further.
Yes, I would like to ask another question, that how is it realistically possible to go into deep decarbonization in heavy industries? And how is it realistically possible?
Through my study, it is not realistically to completely go net zero or to completely being zero carbon emitting industry. But as per my study, the companies that are adopting the renewable energy practices, they are adopting the new CCUS practices, they are strategically cutting down what is most of the high emitting industries, that their dependence on coal. So will not be very quickly, but it will be a strategic move. Strategically, if the companies will follow the path, they will reduce it up to a limit, not complete zero. No company can ever be a zero carbon emitting industry. Thank you.
Thank you. There is still opportunity for the Uttar Pradesh.
No, thank you.
Yes, you still have opportunity if you have any question.
So the Purva Paksha side was talking about the water disclosures not being really related to the profitability, right? So I want to ask if they have identified any drivers which really drives the profitability in the real world.
Thank you. So there could be many factors which can contribute to the profitability, which could be operational excellence, customer acquisition, or there are many other factors. So my study mainly was on the water, whether the water disclosure, quality of the water disclosure is predicting the profitability. So if let's say the investors who are very mindful about the environment, it will provide a guidance to them in order to, if they are looking for companies which are doing good investment, so it could be a guideline for them to invest. So my study was around that. Yeah.
Any Prashna?
Okay, yeah, I have. So are you suggesting that, the companies are putting on a really lot of effort on the disclosures that they do just to bring out the investors into their companies and focus more on profitability?
Yes, certainly. I mean, if you see about the disclosure cost, right? So it is a heavy burden on the companies. Let's say if we say that BRSR reporting is not mandatory for all the companies, but if you say the companies which are MNCs, when they are outsourcing the products or services from the small companies, they are looking they are looking deep level of commitment of sustainability for the smaller firms also. And when they are trying to do that, it creates a heavy costing on them to comply with the requirement. And if you talk about, I feel that is unnecessary because disclosure is not directly meaning a sustainability, right? So.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, now, yes.
Question is about the green hydrogen technology, that your projection shows that this amount will drop by 2030. But within this time, who will bear the cost? The community or the corporation?
Yeah, I really appreciate your question, Ananya. The thing is that the corporations, along with the help of the governments, are actually taking center stage in helping the transition become as faster as possible. And the example that I gave of CBAM, that's the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, so that puts external pressure from different countries to force developing countries such as us to actually initiate the transition process much more faster. And the data that I have gotten, that has been mostly through the International Solar Alliance, and the projection that I've done has been done through the RIGHTS formula, and the formula has a constant, and that constant has also been derived by the International Solar Alliance. So the data has been completely proofed by them, and that actually shows that like after the constant, in a way, the subsidies that the government is providing, the National Green Hydrogen Mission is providing, that would actually force the companies to especially focus on decarbonizing the hard-to-abate sectors, such as steel. Because as we know, India is one of the biggest exporters of steel in Europe, and that has one of the highest tariff rates. So if we produce steel with the use of this technology, the tariffs would actually come down a lot, and that would actually help the exports. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Yes. So we have been building strategies to reduce carbon emissions from decades, starting from Brundtland Commission to Paris Agreement, and now to achieving the SDGs in 2030, which is quite a task. So I want to know, and emissions are still high from the usual amount. Do you think that making new frameworks or strategies to protect biodiversity separately, do you think it would help, or there are some loopholes that we need to tighten instead of making new frameworks?
Definitely not. Building a framework is not the whole solution. Building a mindset is. If you talk about frameworks, there are multiple frameworks. There's a saying that while you breathe, a new framework is born. There can be multiple frameworks and standardizations and restrictions, but still there are loopholes. Until it is in the mindset, until it is in the operational behavior of the firm, till it won't be practically possible to reduce the emissions, to reach the goals which we actually talk about. We do the COP, and sometimes COP even failed, like the last COP. It failed, practically failed, because we were not able to build up something or come to a solution where we would bring another framework. So that's the thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we would give opportunity to the Purupaksh to pose their question.
So my question to the Uttar Paksh is, it's about CSV, that it was claimed that in CSV, society wins either way, being in social good or in profit, that is go hand in hand. But let's imagine a situation if we completely remove charity and make it as a business strategy. So what happened to the desperate social problems? That social problem that offer companies absolute zero profit. Does not this new strategy leave the people behind? Simply that if we replace charity with the business strategy, what the companies will do when there will be no profit? What companies will adopt? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you findings of my study, this is the important finding about social impact. For the overall dimension, every perspective, actually CSV performs better than CSR. And for the social impact, P-value is same for CSR and CSV as well. It shows that business strategy will not reduce the social impact. It will create the same impact of rural livelihoods, education, healthcare, and all, because of when you are mitigating the thin line between the empowerment and charity. You are including these people within the business models, you are empowering them. It's not because just a donation and strategy. So this is the thing that it is also statistically shows that both are showing the same impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you to the Purupaksh and the Uttarpaksh. At this time, we would conclude with our session.
Thank you to all the members of Purv Paksh and Uttar Paksh. Now we move to the end of this debate. To conclude the arguments of Uttar Paksh, the economy is the subset of environment and not the other way around. Also, without a living planet, profit becomes meaningless. And the arguments of Purv Paksh strongly emphasized economic growth and industrial expansion remain essential priorities for developing economics, striving for progress and stability. Now I will end the debate with the chant. स्वदृष्टिरागो अपि हि कल्पनैव तथा निदृष्टाव अपि यश्चोष विधूम्य रागं प्रतिघञ्च तस्माद् विचार्य नक्षी प्रमुपैति मुक्तिम्. Thank you to both the Pakshas for the scholarly exchange. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much. A big hand for all the panelists, the team of Dr. Munir and Dr. Anand from School of Sustainability. To do the honor and for felicitation, I request Professor Ajit Sinha sir. Professor Sinha sir, kindly come to the dais and felicitate our students for the token of our appreciation to them. Please welcome him. I can't hear applause. I know it's tiring, but the tea is constantly being served outside along with cookies and samosas. That's right.
The Madhyast is Emmanuel. He is from Nigeria and he is in the first year. Then we have Stuti Misra, she is in first year. For Uttar Paksh, we have Shravanti. Ananya Pal from Bangladesh, she is again the final semester student. Saurabh Shah Runyar, he is from Nepal and he is also final year student. Shreya, she is first year student. She is representing the work which is done by Saubhag. We have in Purv Paksh, Pradeep. He is again final year student from SMS. Soumyajit. Gautam Misra. And Ashish. So Ashish is our alumni. He passed in 2024.
For a group photo. Thank you very much, sir. Professor Sinha, Dr. Muni, Dr. Anand, and the entire team. Now we move to the next panel, led by Dr. Kishore Dhavla from SEAS. The entire team of Dr. Kishore and Dr. Kishore himself, please come to the dais. Please take your seats. Please welcome them.
Good evening, everyone. This panel's topic is People, Planet, and Prosperity. Can we all have three? This panel's supervisor is Dr. Kishore Dhavla from School of Ecology and Environmental Studies. Now, I'd like to introduce you with all the panel members. Anushin Ray, Achintya Ghoshal, Kapila Sapna Salem, Ashish Suman, Nagori Sainisita, Gargi Kaur, K. Laila Venkat, Mohammad Fakri Wazianto, and the two Madhyastha of this panel are Pabitra and Sandeep. Now I'd like to call Dr. Kishore Dhavla sir to give a brief on this panel. Thank you.
We will continue the previous panel debate further in economic lens, particularly in the market versus non-market valuation. The topic, the people, planet, and prosperity, can we really have all three? Which is an important topic, debate topic now, because as the nations strive for economic growth and technological advancements, and questions arise whether prosperity can be achieved without compromising the environmental sustainability or social equity. The pursuit of the profit has historically driven innovations, employment, and improved living standards. So it has also contributed to climate change, resource depletion, biodiversity loss, and widening the inequality. So this panel will try to debate. So we have for the 5 for the Uttar Paksh and 3 for the Purva Paksh. So 2 of our alumni, they couldn't make it today because they were like, yesterday's because of the heat wave, and they were they were in hospital. So I'm sorry for that. Like, it is not as actually, they try to make it balanced. Yeah, thank you.
So before we formally begin with our bath today, we will be reciting verse by Nalanda Master Chandrakirti, and it goes.
Navad lobhat vihito vicharas tattvam shastre kathitam vimukte vyakhyayamane yadi nama tattve vidam katanyanymatane doshah.
So now on my right we have Purv Paksh, on my left we have Uttar Paksh. So we would now I would like to invite the first panelist, Anushin, to please pose their Paksh.
My mentor, Dr. Kishore, has kind of set the stage for me. Now, 2 of my alumni are down with heat wave. What caused that? Climate change? Who pays for their hospital bill? Does the people who cause climate change, they pay? And here comes the cost of value and the trade-offs. Ecosystem services are the diverse flows that originate from and are provided by natural capital stocks, and their provisioning contributes significantly to human well-being. Goods such as food, fiber, and clean air, the climate regulation, the water that flows in streams, the variety of life that exists on this earth, the traditions associated with our forests, and the enjoyment we derive from ecotourism and others. The continued overexploitation of our ecosystems thus results in the loss of benefits, and that contributes substantially to human well-being, the livelihoods of the poor, the prospects of the future generation, amounting to jeopardizing sustainability, inter- and intragenerational equity, and holistic development. The global discourse on ecosystem service evaluation has been ongoing since the 1970s. Multiple scholarly attempts have been made to value the world's ecosystem services. In fact, the seminal paper by Robert Costanza, The Value of the World's Ecosystem Services and Natural Capital, has been one of the most cited papers worldwide. The non-tradability of most ecosystem services in traditional markets leads to their exclusion from the conventional system of national accounts as a part of total income. Despite the significant share of natural capital in total national wealth, the value of its depletion or appreciation is only recently being accounted for in national accounts. Yet, it is not being reflected in GDP. Therefore, essentially, our growth and development metrics lack contributions from the very nature we depend on. India, being a metadiverse realm of biota, hosts a variety of habitats. My study focused on studying ecosystem service valuations for the last 25 years. And it appeared that valuation studies have been explicit.
You have already exceeded the time. So next in the row we have Achintya. Please pose your paksh.
Namaskaram, I am Achintya. I would be talking about a study on negotiating the energy trilemma in the landscape of Bihar. So energy is one of the foundations of development, dignity and sustainability that we talk about in today's world. As we all know that the global climate discourse has been taking part, and there has been multiple ambitious targets set by the global countries and the different multilateral institutions. So here in this study, we are talking about this and how these policies trickle down from the global climate discourses to the grassroots level, specifically in the state of Bihar. So why do we really choose and pick Bihar? So Bihar basically mirrors the problems and complex challenges what the global south or the global majority, as we call it, faces these days. So what are these challenges is, number one, mere institutional capacity is very, very low. Then there's problem with per capita income. There's problem with per capita population that is very high density. So the question here is very simple. Do these policies look successful on paper, and do they actually change lives on the ground? So there have been reports and dashboards which reflect tons of numbers about these schemes like Ujala, Ujwala, PM Surya Ghar, among others, wherein we talk about bulbs being delivered, gas connections being distributed, and finally connections being made to every household. The study went on to 4 villages surrounding the Nalanda University campus, and the evidence was quite stark. There were often instances wherein the communities mentioned that they didn't even know about some of these schemes, let alone being beneficiaries of these schemes. So what is the problem? The problem is not just infrastructure. I think the problem is more about governance and communication here. So it is the absence of community who do not have a voice in the policy process and policy designing. And that's where Bihar's energy transition finds its and fails the test of justice for those who bear the greatest burden and benefit the least.
All right, thank you. So I would like to remind the panelists that exceeding the time limit would lead to negative marking. Next in the row we have Swapna. Please pose your paksh.
Namaskar. Development is often presented as a choice between economic growth and environmental protection. We are told that prosperity requires expansion, consumption, and continuous exploitation of resources, while sustainability is treated as a limitation on progress. But my research challenges that idea. The study, titled Assessment of Carbon Footprint and Carbon Credit Potential in Higher Educational Institutions, where a case study of Nalanda University is chosen, explores whether institutions can grow and develop without increasing their environmental burden. Universities are not isolated spaces. They function like small cities, consuming energy, generating waste, using water transport systems, infrastructure, and land resources every single day. So if centers of knowledge themselves continues operating through unsustainable systems, then how can societies move towards a sustainable future? This research examines that concern through the case study of Nalanda University, which is a campus designed around sustainability through renewable energy systems, ecological planning, water conservation, green cover, sustainability transport, and waste management practices. The study assessed carbon emissions generated from different institutional activities while also examining how sustainable initiatives can reduce the environmental impact in a long-term way. What becomes important here is that sustainability is not shown as an obstacle to property. Instead, it becomes a different model of prosperity itself. When institutions reduce dependence on conventional energy, resources are saved. When waste is reused responsibly, environmental pressure decreases. And when ecological systems are protected, human well-being and long-term resilience improve together. So, it is not whether all the three P's can coexist, but whether development can continue without responsibility. And this research argues that prosperity is only possible when development and sustainability go together and not against each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So since all the speakers from Purv Paksh have spoken, now we move to the Uttar Paksh. So from Uttar Paksh, I would request Gargi to please pose your Paksh.
Namaskaram. David Atkinson once said, "No one will protect what they will not care, and no one will care what they have never experienced." So what happens when people do care, but systems fail? That question is something related to my dissertation titled Sustainability Awareness in Fashion Industry, the Role of ESG Disclosure and Perceived Greenwashing in Consumer Trust and Purchase Behavior. That basically talks, we are here to debate about people, planet, and prosperity. Can we have all these together? So basically this research gap talks about the companies that are giving us the disclosures and figures that we are making a lot of things for the, lot of efforts for the social and environment and then governance, but they are not actually doing it. They are just greenwashing it. And consumers are actually expressing more environmental concerns before purchasing something, and the fashion industry becoming one of the most polluting industries because of the exploitation they are doing, and because of this, that has become the second most polluting industries. And this study basically questions and answers the four things: that does ESG awareness actually build consumer trust? Does perceived greenwashing erode it? Or do environmentally conscious consumers actually behave consistently through the life cycle of the awareness and the consumption they are doing in the fashion industries? And what actually predicts whether they are ordinary consumer, what they think before buying something? And to find out these questions, a survey of 125 Indian consumers 18 to 44 aged were surveyed, where generation which is driving the India's fast fashion boom, and that the study was done. Thank you.
Your time is up. So next in the panel we have Ashish. Please start.
Yeah. Namaste. The discussion on people, planet and prosperity often assumes that economic growth and human development are threats to sustainability. But we must understand, for much of the developing world, prosperity is not greed. It is survival, dignity, and opportunity. Millions still struggle for fulfilling their basic needs. In such conditions, asking societies to prioritize ecological idealism is thinking of utopian world. The Nalanda tradition emphasized not only wisdom, but also collective welfare. Our knowledge traditions have long emphasized Bahujan Hitai, Bahujan Sukhai. Similarly, Indian statecraft reminds us, Praja Sukhe Sukham Ragya, Prajana Cha Hite Hitam. In the happiness of the subject lies the happiness of the king. Here states, in their welfare, his welfare. Modern public awareness, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshita. That which is protected protects in return. Thus, prosperity and sustainability need not be adversaries, but should be considered complementary in nature, so need to balance it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Leah.
Thank you, moderator. Andarki namaskaram, and greeting of the day to the dignitaries and my fellow mates in the panel. The dissertation focused on ESG integration in higher education institutes using Nalanda University as a case study. The study examines how environmental, social, governance principles are integrated into the institutional framework and evaluates the university sustainable performance in relation to SDGs and ESG indicators. The research questions were how ESG principles integrate with Nalanda University institutional framework. Are ESG indicators and SDG goals are aligned? What are the gaps and challenges in the study? The research have adopted mixed method approach, the qualitative and quantitative analysis. The qualitative there is the time series of environmental indicators ranging from water, waste, energy, and transport and plantation from the year 2021 to 2025. The qualitative analysis is a structured survey and document review of social and governance aspects. The key findings are Nalanda University demonstrate strong environmental sustainability through 6.0 megawatt solar plant water, recycling, and plantation drives. Socially, it excels in diversity, well-being, and community engagement. Governance show publicly available government structure with annual report and committees and accountability. Certainly, there are prominent gaps which should be considered and addressed by including the policy of ESG framework like BRSR from SEBI or by inclining SDGs. Third-party verification, governance, and improvement by covering maximum indicators. The study affirms that people, planet, and prosperity are achievable together when ESG is structurally embedded, not cosmetically applied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Fakhri. Please pose your argument.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. While Purva Paksh advocates for planet health and the non-market valuations of the ecosystems, there is a critical point need to be taken into consideration when we are talking about developing countries. There is the Asian Development Bank stated as the double dichotomy. So the developing countries facing the situation where they have to balance between maintaining the economic growth while also at the same time facing the rising environmental crisis. In search of actual ground-level solid evidence, the dissertation that I have done surveyed 152 students from both India and ASEAN regions. The data reveals there is a different regional priority. India students focus heavily on behavioral champions, like the Life movement, where students from ASEAN countries urgently demand physical protections, like the MISTI program, where planting mangroves while at the same time maximizing the economical benefits to the society surrounding goes hand in hand. Now, why isn't this massive physical protection already there? The analytical depth reveals that the barrier is not a lack of cultural willingness. 82.9% of the students from ASEAN agree that Indian environmental policies aligning perfectly with their traditional values. Meanwhile, 80.3% of them identified that the initial setup cost as the major obstacle for the implementation. This reality logically validates what the Uttar Paksh argument is. Urgent development activities and resource utilization are absolute necessities for developing countries. To eventually implement sustainable actions, developing nations first required the financial capital generated by the immediate economic growth. Prosperity is the essential engine that funds the green transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Fakhri. So the last speaker for this panel, we have Nishta. Please keep forward your verbatim.
Namaskaram. After listening to the discussion so far, one thing becomes very clear. The debate is not really about choosing people, planet, or prosperity. The real debate is about the kind of development model we choose to follow. For a long time, society have been made to believe that economic growth demands environmental sacrifice and the protecting the nature slows down the progress. But this comes from an outdated way of thinking, where nature is treated only as something to exploit, not something to sustain. Because there can be no lasting prosperity on a dying planet. Where soil loses fertility, farmers suffer. When biodiversity collapses, food system becomes weakened. When pollution rises, public health declines. And when livelihood disappears, social instability follows. So the question is not whether we should choose between the planet and prosperity. The real question is why are we still designing the system that forces us to choose between them? One such example can be addressed with my dissertation. is the spread of Parthenium hysterophorus, commonly known as Congress grass. It spreads aggressively across agricultural landscapes, damages crops, affects biodiversity, and create health problems in communities. The conventional response has been reported with chemical control, temporary removal measures, but treating it as a consumer resource without creating a long-term solution. Instead of treating invasive biomass as waste, it can be converted into biochar through thermal processing system. In this way, environmental burden is transformed into a productive system. Perhaps the important part of this model is community involvement based on the incentive system behind it, where rural communities are encouraged and supported to collect the biomass, and where environmental restoration itself becomes an economic opportunity. Soil improves, waste is utilized productively, livelihoods strengthen together. So the true prosperity built by restoring it. And this is how people, planet, and prosperity can coexist. Thank you.
All right. So now since all the speakers from both the ends have spoken, we now move to the next segment, Prashna Prati Prashna. So now I would like to invite questions from Purva Paksh if we have any.
My question for the Uttar Paksh will be, if consumers care so much about the planet, why don't they actually pay for the environmental externalities by paying more for sustainable products?
Thank you, Purvapaksh. Well, that's a very pertinent point that you have point out. Well, because caring is something is the problem, and people, consumers care, but the problem comes here is the credibility. Brands and companies show that they are doing environmentally good, but they are not showing it on the paper, on the reports, on the disclosures. And that's where the thing comes, why would a rational consumer will go for a product when they have to ask for they have to justify for this question. So I think that credibility is the problem, and if the companies fix greenwashing, I think consumers would definitely go for the good purchasing and for the premium price as well.
I hope this answers your question. Do we have any other question?
One more question regarding, so Nalanda, this campus that we are sitting has been built very recently. So you mentioned about ESG frameworks. How do you really have a valid answer to having a fair and equitable comparison and evaluation of older institutions and newer institutions like Nalanda, which has centered around net zero as a campus and serving its own sustainability principles and guidelines?
Thank you for the question. The framework is not about comparing all the university at the starting point. It looks at the improvement over time. An older university may not become a carbon neutral university but slowly improving the governance and the social aspects can make a significant improvement. And they can also focus on the frameworks and the growth, and each institution have its own context and capacity, and that is also a progress for the ESG.
Do we have more questions?
So my question for Uttar Paksh is that if sustainability technologies like biochar require financial support like incentive-based system for communities and policy incentives, can they realistically balance people, planet and prosperity, especially in the context of developing regions?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, they can. Actually, developing regions where ecological and livelihoods are closely connected. Financial support to sustainable systems cannot be seen as a weakness, but as a strength. Where the conventional systems like chemical fertilizers, fossil fuel industries are mostly dependent on subsidies. Different to that, sustainable system can play a major role.
So now, Uttar Paksh, do we have any question?
Purvapaksh remarks something related to the higher education. So I have this one question. When universities already face financial and infrastructural limitations, should carbon reduction initiatives still be treated as a priority? What do you think?
Thanks for the question. Yeah. Universities will have, especially in the developing regions, universities has this financial and infrastructural limitations, but then choosing the sustainable management systems is needed, because in short term it may look like it is economically convenient to not choose sustainability and go through unsustainable systems, but it may pose long-term risks, such as it may use resource availability will be risked, and then we will have higher energy dependence and many environmental risks as such. So in order to reduce the operational burden over time, we have to have this higher educational institutions should have this as a priority. Carbon reduction should be prioritized.
Thank you. Do we have more questions?
So my question is like in the scenario when it is considered that development is not that much needed, considering which like ecological idealism is much required, considering the situation of either climate change, which you have the Purva Paksh has talked about. So in that sense, in that scenario, question is like, without economic prosperity, who will finance these green transitions and all?
The thing is that we are speaking about inclusive growth. The observations have been that development till date has been excluding major sections of the society, and for even including green transition in our agenda, where do we get the money from? That is your question. The thing is that we are asking you to get the money to these businesses, and here is the focus: get these businesses.
More questions? No? Yes. All right.
So perhaps the more honest question we live with is not can we have all three, but under what conditions do all the three become possible? As we draw this conversation to a close, we would like to conclude with the verse. Swadrishtiragopi kalpaneva tadhanyadrishtapi yascharosha vidhuya ragam pradigam cha tasmat vicharayanshe pramupaiti muktim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A big hand for all the panelists, the team of Dr. Kishore from SEAS. So to do the honor for felicitation, I request Madam Vice Chancellor to share a few moments of appreciation from our side to all our panelists from the SEAS. Please welcome her.
Madhyas Sandeep, please come forward. Pavitra. Purva Paksh Swapna. Purva Paksh Achinta. Anushin. Uttar Paksh Gargi. Ashish Shuman. Ashish Shuman is our 2016-18 batch. He is currently a scholar in the JNU. Laya. Fakri. Fakri is from Indonesia, and then he's trying to promote Indian policies in Indonesia. And Sai Nishita. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Dr. Kishore and the entire team. Now, the next panel is School of Sustainability. School of Sustainability. The theme is, should development be state-led or market-led? Again, the anchor is our own Shirsha. Please welcome her.
Moving forward, the panel title is Should Development Be State-Led or Market-Led? The supervisors are Dr. Anand Kumar and Dr. Munir. The participants in this panel are Polly, Thida, and Karma, Punerji, Rividana, and Bhavna. The moderators for this panel are Viraj and Stuti. I would now like to invite Dr. Munir to introduce the panel theme. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrisha. Thank you all. This panel is based on multiplicity of governance, labor, welfare schemes, institutional effectiveness, and social dimension of development and sustainability. In this panel, there is one specialty that we have one alumni who did MBA from Nalanda University, and now he is doing MA Buddhist Studies. His dissertation was on well-being without borders. We have used global database, Gallup global database, to identify the well-being indicators and how the intersectionality of well-being indicators should be beyond GDP. And he used panel data regression and structural equation model to understand the dimensionality around the well-being. So in this panel, we have Karma, Thida, and Polly on this side, and then the moderators, Stuti and Viraj. And on the opposite side, we have Ravindana, Bhavna, and Punerji. Over to the moderators. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Now we are starting the debate by the Nalanda verse. Navad lobhad vihito vicharas tatvantu shastre kathitam vimukte Vyakhyayamane yadinam tatve bhidam gatanya namanatanya dosha.
Namaskar. Welcome to this panel of Nalanda-Shastrartha 2026. The theme of this panel is, should development be a state-led or market-led? So, these are the members of Purv Paksh, Polly, Thida, and Karma. And these are the members of Uttar Paksh, Ravindra, Bhavna, and Punerji.
Now we start the debate from the Purv Paksh. I will invite Polly to speak.
Namaste, everyone. So now I'm going to posting my research. So my research was conducted under titles Institutional and Capacity Barriers to Mobilize the Climate Adaptation Finance for Local Resilience in Cambodia. So that there are multiple findings that I find in my research. So the first, that Cambodia's mobilized significant climate adaptation finance through international and multilateral financing mechanisms like GCF and like World Bank and Climate Investment Finance, and that have framework from the time frame from 2015 to 2024. That is amounts that I try to highlight about what is the climate finance flows from 2015 to 2024. So according to my research, I found that $176.65 million amongst, and also under implementation from the previous 2015-2025, I found that $218.78 million. So this demonstrates that open and multi-actors, the finance system can expand development opportunity beyond what domestic public finance alone can provide. And the second, that my research also found that relatively stronger adaptation outcomes were observed from the small locally that embedded program. That is suggests that decentralized and flexible implementations models are often more responsive to local realities and communities needs than heavily centralized approach. And the third is that I found that despite the existence, extensive governance structure, institutional fragmentation, weak coordinations, and limited implementations, finance the study that also indicate that the excessive bureaucratic
Kindly conclude.
fragmentations and limitation employment outcomes can that even when finance is available. So from my perspective, finance is that decentralized, partnership-based and adaptive further.
Previous study focused on India and Myanmar separately. There is very limited comparative results. India used market-led approach, public-private partnership, digital governance, financial support, and private investment in affordable rental housing complexes program. Myanmar mainly depend on government-led welfare housing program. So a market-led approach can mobilize investment, encourage innovation, improve institutional efficiency, and faster development outcome. However, I believe this market alone are not enough. Government development. Thank you.
Thank you, Thida. Now I will invite Karma to speak.
Hello. My name is Karma Tenzin, and my dissertation topic is assessment of turnover intentions and the retention strategies at one of the colleges in Bhutan. I have used a theoretical framework in my study, adapted from Mobley's turnover module, and in that I have discussed with my supervisors and added the well-being aspect to suit my study. And the framework, it explains 80% of variances in the turnover intention as indicated by the R-square value of regression analysis. So it is a good explanation of the turnover intentions which is occurring. So it explains that model is a good fit for that. And while conducting a correlation analysis, the intention to search for alternatives came out as one of the greatest predictor of turnover intention from among the factors. So while I went and delved a little deeper and found that the reason why they search for alternatives is because they are seeking to have a better pay or compensation. And the pay structure in that college is basically regulated by the state, and it is fixated. Although it might be for a better intention, but in that college, it doesn't actually help in retention of the employees. So it basically has a negative impact on that. So in that manner, I have come to a conclusion that market basically do not undermine the welfare of employees working in an organization, but sometimes state rigidity does. So at the end, what we have to seek is, we have to seek a balance between market-led and state-led. So this is the conclusion that I came to. So that's it from my side, and thank you.
Thank you, Garba.
So now we are moving to the Uttar Paksh. I now invite Ravindra, representing the Uttar Paksh.
Good evening, everybody. I am Ravindra. So we are moving with the state-led development. So in my study, it is about the critical analysis of the policy transformation and the social impact on the tea plantation workers of Sri Lanka. So basically, I am talking about how policy interventions impact on the socio-economic well-being of the tea plantation sector in Sri Lanka. So in the methodology, what I've used here is mixed methodology, which means I've used qualitative and quantitative approach. In qualitative approach, I have done structural interviews, and quantitative approach, I have done a survey in 101 participants in Sri Lanka and Dana State, Ratnapura. And the data analysis part I have done through ANOVA, which I'm using by the JASP model, and as well as I've used correlation. So when it comes to the finding section, I am talking about the passive inclusion. When the workers has registered to EPF and ETF, such social welfare projects, but at the same time, they don't have proper sanitation and water, which means the passive inclusion there. And I am talking about then the seniority trap, which means they have worked for so long, but their well-being was not mentioned for a long time. The living condition was poor. So, and at the same time, I'm talking about the significance of the houses. So, how houses impact on their dignity, as well as their transportation and clean drinking water and sanitation. So the findings reveal that the housing has significant towards dignity, but not for the clean drinking water and sanitation.
Ribintana, please conclude.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the speaker. I now invite Bhavna, representing the Uttar Pradesh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bhavna Sinha, and I worked at Environmental Design Solution as my corporate internship. The project which I'm going to talk about today is related to the energy savings and how sustainable energy interventions can contribute to the social welfare of the people. Through this project, I understand how state-led initiatives play an important role in reducing the energy consumption, lowering emissions, and improving energy security, and benefiting the society as a whole. The project that I worked on has been related to the Bhutan's standards and labeling program for energy efficient appliances. The program is to promote the use of efficient appliances such as the LED lighting systems, refrigerators, and water heaters. The main objective of the program is to reduce the electricity consumption, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and decrease Bhutan's dependence on imported electricity during the winter season. As part of my contribution to this project, I conducted the research on international standards and label programs, energy efficiency appliance policies, and financing mechanisms for the schemes that can increase the adoption of efficient appliances. I also worked on the green public procurement that can support the transition towards the sustainable appliances. This approach not only supports the environmental sustainability, but also makes the efficient appliances more accessible and affordable for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you to the speaker. I now invite Punerji, representing the Uttar Pradesh.
So good evening, everyone. I'll be presenting our perspective that the development should go beyond GDP and go towards the human well-being. So human well-being aspects includes the multidimensional perspectives such as social support, freedom of choice, health, education, and sustainability. So in our research, we conducted data across 130 countries, and for 8 years, we have concluded that social support and freedom of choice make a more impact than mere GDP growth. So that concludes that GDP should be channelized towards social well-being by the aspects of social support and also freedom of choice. So our conclusion is not just mere facts. These are based on data. How can we deny these facts based on data? And so on. We are not denying that market should not be there. We say that market should be there, but should be channelized to the government-led initiatives to achieve the human well-being in the aspects of social support, health, and other well-being aspects such as development on social aspects. So these are the facts we have found through our data. And also, we are concluding that the market-led investment not merely sufficient, and also the public investment should also be there in the aspects of actualizing well-being. And also, we say that these aspects should be channelized through the market, through the state-led initiatives. So our conclusion is that the GDP not merely will lead to a holistic well-being, and the channelization should be done through state-led initiatives. So this is our conclusion.
So thank you to the speaker from the Purv Paksh and the Uttar Paksh. Now we move to the Uttar Paksh for the Prashna.
My question is how employee well-being impact the turnover and what role does the market play in that?
Turnover, as I've said, turnover usually happens when an employee is not happy in an organization. And that unhappiness comes basically from the data that I've got from my survey. It says that 37% of the employees from the target population says that they are unhappy with compensation. And compensation here, when I mention to compensation in the target population, it is basically directed by state. So the college do not have anything to do with compensation. They can either increase, nor they can decrease. But if you were to look at the trend, like what employees are expecting is they need a good compensation. So when an employer cannot do anything about it, they don't have any option but to lose those well-performing and then good employees. So basically, what I was aiming at is if that college is given financial autonomy where they can function like as a competitive in a competitive market, they would be in a better situated position to retain those employees better.
Thank you, Purv. Now we will move to the Purv Paksh for the Prashna.
Thank you. So, your colleague have mentioned about the housing projects and have improved worker dignities and well-being, so on and so forth. So, my question is that, do you think that future policy should prioritize infrastructure development? And I guess you have about the waters and sanitations over constructing new housing units?
Yes, I would like to answer that question. I would say that Punarji also talk about the well-being. So we should not only think about the surface level development, we should go beyond that. So surface level, in my study also, the surface level development, I can say as data points, people has 98% of people has registered to the EPF and ETF. At the same time, 82% people do not have clean water and sanitation, which means that every aspect such as education, sanitation, clean drinking water, and as well as the gender, we should have separate policies. Policies need to be addressed in the separate sectors, not in the surface level, because the hidden transcripts are there, which means people voice we need to hear. So I would like to conclude in this way. We should go beyond the surface level development. We should listen to the hidden transcript as well. Thank you.
So now we are moving to the conclusion of this debate. To conclude the panel from the Purv Paksh, market-led development drives growth and innovation, but true well-being requires balancing it with the equality and inclusion through the state-led development. And to conclude the panel from the Uttar Paksh, true development is development not merely through economic growth, but through state-led system that ensures sustainability, equity, society, and overall well-being of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Viraj, and all participants from the Uttar Paksh and Purv Paksh. Now I will end the debate with the Nalanda verse. Swadrishtirago api kalpaneva तथा निर्दिष्टाव अपयश्चरोषा विधूम्य रागं प्रतिघञ्च तस्मात् विचार्य नक्षी प्रमुपैति मुक्तिम्. Thank you to both Pakshas for the scholarly exchange. Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Big hand for the entire panel. The team of Dr. Anand and Dr. Munir, all the moderators and anchor. To do the honor, I request our Dean, Professor Venkatrao sir, to kindly felicitate all our students. Please welcome him.
Sir, we have Karma from Bhutan. Karma, okay. Karma. Acha, from there. Thida. Polly from Cambodia. And then on the opposite side we have, okay, Stuti, the moderators, Stuti and Viraj. And the panelists on the opposite side, Ravindana from Sri Lanka and Bhavna is from India. And we have Punarji from Sri Lanka. He is our alumni, sir. Sir, a group photo.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Venkatrao, sir, Dr. Muni, Dr. Anand, and the entire team. I know it's the time for dinner, but we are left with only 2 panels. There are 2 options. After the dinner, coming back for panels, or continuing and then have the dinner and a very restful sleep for the tomorrow's panel. Majority decided that we do before the dinner, so we continue with the next panel, and I request the team of Dr. Mir Islam from School of Language, Literature and Humanities, led by Dr. Venkatrao sir, to please take the seats and start the panel.
The panel is titled Narrative Self and Being. The participants in this panel are Joel Guha, Esma, just a second, sorry, my bad. Yeah, the participants in this panel are Esma, Madhushani, Roshan, Joel Guha, Shruti, and Imamul. Please, and the moderators for this panel are Tapaswini and Swati. I would now like to invite Dr. Mir to kindly introduce the theme of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Srisha. Good evening, everybody. This is on narrative, self, and being. Can we imagine ourselves beyond narrative? Narrative, selfhood, being, identity are dynamically interconnected. It's a process through which human, and here we add that it's not only human but non-human animal existence are interpreted, performed, and remembered. That's what this panel is going to talk about. And we have our Uttar Paksh, that is the alumni, that is the dissertation people. And then we have our Purva Paksh, that is the alumni and the PhD scholar. Roshan is from Bangladesh again, and Isma is a PhD student from here, and Madhusani is from Sri Lanka, alumni from here. We now start the panel. Thank you.
Namaskar. We will begin this panel with chanting.
Navadilo bhadvihito vicharas tattvam tu shastre kathitam vimukte vyakhyayamane yadinam tatve vidam. Welcome to this panel of Nalanda-Shastrartha 2026. The theme of the panel is Narrative, Self and Being.
The members of Uttar Paksh are Joel, Shruti, Imamul, and the member of Pura Paksh are Isma, Madhusani, and Roshan. Now I invite Uttar Paksh participant Joel to put forward their Paksh.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. I'm Joel Guha, and my topic is Body as a Site of Knowledge in Mahashweta Devi's breast trilogy. Institutions often oppress the subaltern female body to make knowledge about it. In Mahashweta Devi's breast trilogy, we see several systems of knowledge being created by these certain institutions be it in the religious sense, be it in the medical sense, be it in the sense of the state apparatus or aestheticism. These themselves become acts of erasure by the institution. However, the bodies in their own truth create a kind of residual truth that produces a new kind of knowledge from the body. Now here lies my research gap, which answers the question of whether literature can actually go beyond this narrative of how institutional powers create a certain kind of knowledge about the body to exploit them. The bodies in their residual truth actually go beyond this institutional or structural framework. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Now I request Shruti to pose their Paksh.
Good evening, everyone. So, within the broader theme of narrative, self, and being, this dissertation on A Woman is No Man will explore how migration, trauma, and resistance shape identity and one's sense of being. So, this study examines the experiences of Palestinian American women through the interconnected lives of three generations, Esra, Dea, and Farida. Set within the historical background of Nakba, the dissertation explores how migration, patriarchy, domestic violence, and silence continue to shape women's identities even after relocation to America. While discussion on migration mainly focuses on the physical movement, this dissertation highlights the emotional and psychological consequences of displacement across generations. So my major finding is that migration doesn't ensure freedom or equality to women. Instead, the desire to protect one's own culture increases even more in the name of preserving their identity. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Now I request Imamul to pose their Paksh.
A very good evening to all. I'm Imamul from SLLH. So my topic, my derivation was to reimagining nationhood and beyond in Atif Chaudhury's novel, Babu Bangladesh. So my primary focus is to how narrative shifts or how narrative helps to build a nationhood or concept of nations. And how Numra Atif Chaudhury shows narrative through his writing, how Bangladesh being an existence and how Bangladesh being a nation after 1771. And how the main character, protagonist, Babu Abdul Mazumdar, become he's an allegory of the nation, how a nation, developed, because he born after 1 year after the nation, our independence. So by through the life of Babu Abdul Mazumdar, because he is a lawmaker of the country, though it is an allegory, but he was the lawmaker of the country and he was the minister of the country. So through his narrative and narrations, he showed that how a lawmaker or being a a ministry or minister, how their work can help to build a nation and how nationhood concept exists throughout the time. And by doing so, I use Homike Vaba's theory, disseminations, which is I taken from the location of culture. By through whoever mentioned that nationhood is scattered, already disseminated. So my argument was that how nationhood become scattered or disseminated, and how we can unify this kind of concepts together to become a nation. So on for these things, so my key findings was that how Babu Mazumdar, allegory character, become a symbol of Bangladesh, and how Numar Atifs represent authenticity, or how Numar Atif portray the reality of Bangladesh in his novel. So I'd like to conclude by saying that nationhood is not like a mere concept, it's a complex concept.
Thank you, Imamul.
Yeah.
Thank you to the speakers of Uttar Paksh. Now Uttar Paksh has given their propositions and premise. Now I move to Purva Paksh to take up the discussions and dialogue on the Uttar Paksh.
I first invite Esma to pose her question to Uttar Paksh.
Am I audible? Yes. Namaskar, everyone. I am Esma Tashkan. I am PhD scholar under SLLH. I would like to engage Shruti related to her dissertation. Yes, Shruti. Do you really think that that novel you mentioned, A Woman with No Man, this novel really redefined the concept of home for immigration, for immigrant women with the context of your dissertation?
Thank you, Esma, for the question. This novel, A Woman is No Man, do reshape the concept of home. It doesn't see home just as a physical location, but it see it as an emotional condition. And in the novel also, when the character displaced to America, they still had the emotional connect to their country, Palestine. And at the same time, when they were in America, they felt alienated as well as restricted in the new environment.
Now I invite Madhusani to pose her question to the Uttar Paksh.
Okay, this is regarding that there is best stories. So you told that the institutions create new kind of knowledge and it controls. So my question is, when institutions create new kind of knowledge and how it gonna affect on resistance? And the next question is, if we think religion is also an institution, so how you gonna see this idea to the perspective of religion as an institution?
To be clear, you asked me two questions, right? So the first one is about the knowledge systems that are being created. Now there are a lot of institutional powers that create these kind of knowledge systems, and they create a lot of kinds of knowledge systems. So just like religious knowledge system is one, there is also a medical knowledge system or the state apparatus system, which we in the first place see in the story of Draupadi. And there is a medical knowledge system that we see in the story of Jashoda, the breast giver, right? So these are the kinds of systems that the institutions create to give the women a new kind of identity. And as far as your question for religious system goes, so religious system is created in the story of the breast giver, where a mother is actually given the identity of a goddess, which she is not, and her body at the end of the day with its own cancer provides a residual truth, which I spoke about, the new kind of knowledge. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Now I invite Roshan to pose his question to the Uttar Paksh.
So I would like to ask a question to Mr. Imamul Muttaqin. At first, I want to thank you for choosing such an unexplored area for working. And the thesis actually says that the text is about a post-colonial reimagination of a nation, right? But what we see that the thesis grant the author a privilege of representing the country as a post-independent nation. But we see generally regarding South Asian authors that they remain in a complexity of representation, because the home expect authenticity and the marketable world, they expect the exotic oriental framing of the South Asian thought. So how you are so sure, I mean, how do you think that in the name of representing the nation, Mr. Noamer Atif Chaudhary is not selling the nation to the world?
Okay, thank you for these questions. I'd like to answer this by two sections. First, how do I understand my representations? For example, Karl Marx in his 18th Brumaire, he mentioned that since he was talking about the French peasantry, that since they are not represented, they must be represented. And another thing is that in our essay, Can the Savant Speak? Mentioned that there are two notions of representations. One is representation in the political scenario, and another is representation for representation, re-hyperrepresentation. So, in this sense, I think Atif Chaudhuri, he's honestly represented the Bangladeshi scenario. If we talk about the fourth chapter of this book, which is about the island, the Samadhi Island, and it is allegorically represent the Saint Martin. And he also mentioned that Babu himself corrupted. I mean, he took 311 million of taka. It also highlighted the corruption. I mean, the corrupt country of the Bangladesh as well. Another thing is that to ask the last questions that it is outweigh the market value or the literary value, if I rightly. So I think it is not, because Babu Mazumdar doesn't sell the country. He spent almost 15 years for his life to compose these things.
Thank you, Imam, for
okay,
that
okay,
answer.
thank you.
Now we move towards the conclusion with the chanting. Swadrishti rago api kalpaneva tathanya drishtav api yascharosha vidhuya ragam pratighancha tasman vicharin shipram nupati muktim. We thank you for this scholarly exchange. Dhanyavad.
Thank you to all the panelists, the moderators, and the anchor, the entire team of Dr. Mir Islam. So we request now our Honorable Vice Chancellor to kindly come to the dais and do the honor, felicitating our own students, appreciating them for their effort. Please welcome him.
Tapasini from the first year. Swati, first year. Joel from the Uttar Paks. Shruti Swani. Imam. We have now the Purva Paks. Roshan from Bangladesh. Isma from Turkey, Madhusani from Sri Lanka. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Mir Islam, and the entire team. Now we have come to the last panel for today's deliberation, the today's Shastrar. The panel comes from SBS PCR, led by Dr. Pranshu Samdarshi, entire team of moderators, the examiners, the panelists, and the anchor. Please take your seat on the dais. Please welcome them with a round of applause. Can we have the little more thirst to it? After this, there is a dinner.
Panel is under resilience significance, relevance, and revival. Why should take and bring it to the
So thank you. Last but not least, all have been waiting for the conclusion of this. So we have, this is a student from Bhutan. He has come from all the way in Nepal. Then we have candidate. Then we have Bharat. Then Sister Nu, then Tanmoy, then Pragati, then Tenjin, and finally Sering. So 4 different countries, 3 different courses, and a very diverse group. So with this, the theme is why Indic traditions matter today. And they all have worked on different aspects. It starts from Kashmir. Pragati has done work on Kashmir Kalikrama. Then it goes to Arunachal, Northeast. Tenzin has worked on Arunachal. Then it goes to Southeast Asia. Sister Nu, she has worked on that. How Avalokiteswara tradition has traveled across Asia. Then we have our Sering. So he has worked on the Chham dance. That way we see these Indic traditions, they all have been connected to India. And this has 3 aspects: the resilience, how it has survived across different time, then relevance, why it is relevant today, and why its revival is needed. So these are the basic themes, 3 themes on which they will discuss. So now I hand over the charge to Varsha and Rudraja, our moderator. Thank you.
नवादलोभाद्विहितो विचारस् तत्त्वं तु शास्त्रे कथितं विमुक्त्यै व्याख्यायमाने यदि नाम तत्त्वे भिदां गतान्यन्यमतान्यदोष.
Namaskar. Welcome to the Nalanda-Shastrartha 2026. The theme of this panel is why do Indic traditions matter today?
The members of the Pratipaksha are Dr. Stalin Kureya, Thupten, and Venerable Fong. The members of the Paksha are Pragati Prerna, Tenven Droima, Tanmoy Mitra, Shering Funso, Venerable Nu, and Venerable Han. I now invite the Paksha participant, Pragati Prerna, to put forward the Paksha.
Thank you so much. My dissertation focuses on the question, is Kalikrama a sub-school or an independent philosophical school of Kashmir? Kalikrama, by many scholars, is considered a sub-school. However, it is very distinct because as compared to other schools, it emerged in Kashmir and not in the Trans-Himalayan range. It originated in Kashmir and it was propagated in the vernacular language, and the script was Sharda and the language was Prakrit as compared to other schools which wrote in Sanskrit. Not just that, it focused on the krama or sequential movement towards the realization of absolute, and it also means how the divine manifests in sequence in the world. It also focuses on bhoga moksha samarasya. So many philosophical schools think that you have to leave the world to reach the highest absolute. However, Kalikrama, in consideration of the householders, provided a system where people, a common householder and not just the male, can not just practice tantric rituals and move towards the absolute. It is worth noting that in this tradition, the absolute reading is called Kala Samkarshini, which is a feminine aspect. And when Shivanandanatha got it, the knowledge from the yoginis, the divine beings, he propagated it to the 3 females, which led to the 3 lineages. It is worth noting that this is the time period when the feudal order was going on and the tripartite struggle was going on. So women agencies were restricted. But in Kashmir, we see that how female took a central stage in propagation, and thus in this way, the society was extremely benefited. Srinagar was formed in the structure of Sri Chakra, which was again inspired from the philosophy of Kalikram. This establishes Kalikram is not a school of Trika and Pratibhigya, but an school which not only shared its values with other schools, but eventually was taken by other schools as a prakriya, which also known as the Shakta Upay, to move towards liberation. It shows that it has not just resilience, relevance, but a revival instinct which allowed it to sustain itself even till today.
I now invite Tenvin Droima, the Paksha participant, to put forward the Paksha.
Good evening, everyone. Have you ever wondered a religion crossing across the borders, mountains, and rivers? So now I'm talking about a religion that came across the mountains, rivers, and borders. There is a group of community, which is called a community, which resides in the eastern Himalayas. So they follow the Buddhism, which got blended with the local religion, which was already existing. So before this period, Buddhism was not really practiced by this Monpa people, but after Buddhism came to this community, it got blended. Like, it didn't got erased, it just got blended together, and they form like something very unique, which actually what Monpa people really deserve to get a religion like that. So for example, how monks, they traveled all across the borders, and how economically, politically, and culturally it got mixed with that was already existing in this region. The good thing about this is, like, it didn't erase the existing religion. It got blended, and this is what till now it is been followed. Teachers like Guru Padma Sambhava and Santarakshita, they both practiced it, and then they spread this religion, and this is what till now Monpa people follow. And also my dissertation is all about telling people that Monpa people were not the passive receivers of this religion, but they were actually a very active participants to make this religion practiced and more developed and to form something which was very unique. So thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Paksha participant, Tanmoy Mitra, to put forward the Paksha.
Is Buddhist visuality in modern and contemporary art. My exploration investigates how Buddhist philosophy relevant in modern and contemporary art. Rather than approaching Buddhism as a religious symbolism or spiritual influence, the study examines how Buddhist concepts reshapes the visuality through perception, temporality, relationality, and mindfulness and embodied experience. The research is structured based on 5 major Buddhist concepts: emptiness, impermanence, non-self, and mindfulness, and interdependence. And in these relationships, the theme resilience, relevance, revival, why Indic tradition matter today, the study argued that Buddhist philosophy remains intellectually and culturally relevant far beyond historical and its religion origin. And so contemporary art, Buddhist concepts are not longer confined ancient text. It's practiced in various diverse theme. For example, installation art, performance art, and video art, and many types of visual language now we will see. So we can't figure within a systematic frame. It is more diverse.
Thank you. I now request the Paksha participants sharing Funso to put forward the Paksh.
Good evening, everyone. My dissertation is titled Embodied Ritual and Doctrinal Expression, Charm Dance in Bhutan, with special reference to Raksha Mangcham and Achara tradition. Charm dance is one of the unique features of Himalayan Buddhist culture, especially in Bhutan, and it traces its history to Indian Buddhist tantric system. And in Bhutan, it was introduced by Guru Padmasambhava around 8th century. The central argument of my dissertation is that charm dance is not just an entertainment, it is an embodied ritual, meaning that the Buddhist teachings can be expressed through performative art, such as through bodily action, hand gestures, ritual attributes, so on and so forth. And I made a special reference to Raksha Mangcham because it teaches ethical living, mindfulness, consequences of one's good and bad action. And also I made a special reference to Achara because it teaches emptiness, interdependence, interconnectedness. So therefore, my argument is that charm dance survived until today because it is culturally significant, socially relevant, and then it is contemporarily relevant to the society. And finally, my dissertation shows that charm dance is not just a performative art, it is a living bridge between culture, religion, and heritage, and also to the society. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Venerable Nguyen Kin Nu to give their
Good evening, everyone. My research focused on the role of Kumarajiva on the translational movement in China. Kumarajiva was the great Buddhist translator who transmitted the Indian Buddhist thought from the Central Asia into China. Through the methodology of philological analysis, translation, comparison, and historical study, this research will demonstrate how Kumarajiva was successfully introduced the authentic Mahayana Buddhism into China, and showing that his short text not only derive from the Sanskrit but contain the element of Prakrit and Ganari in the Central Asia tradition. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the Venerable Wu Thi Han to present the Paksha.
Respect to all professors, examiners, and hello everyone. My research study about the iconography of Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, focus on how an Indic Buddhist image travel from India into the Champa of Vietnam and become a distinctive for local expression. This study based on the analyze the sculptural inscription and comparing with Indian and South Asia example to one important case is the Lakshmindra Lokesvara belong to the Dongyung style. This example show that the Champa artists select, adapt, and reshape the Indic Buddhist model to the according to their own religious and cultural context, and highlight the creativity and active roles of the Champa in receiving and transforming the Indic tradition. Although the outer form like the attribute, ornament, or the portion is changed, but the core identities of Avalokitesvara still remain. The image continue to express the compassion, the protection, and the response to the sufferings. This journey reminds us that tradition remains alive not only by staying unchanged, but entering a new cultural, they can preserving the ethical meaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I request Dr. Stalin Kuria from the Pratipaksh to take over, followed by question answers.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, dear students, for acquainting us with your research. The problem this panel is deliberating today is regarding the relevance of Indic traditions in our day and age. And a problem that we face in delineating relevance is to ask the following question: is relevance self-evident, or do we need to devise stringent and uncompromising criteria in order to demarcate relevance? In this regard, one fruitful way to ask questions about the relevance of Indic traditions to our day and age could be to adapt a criteria of truth and scientificality proposed by one of the greatest minds of the last century, Karl Popper. Popper proposed something called the falsifiability criteria. A scientific thesis is scientific only if it can, at least in theory, be falsified. Now, many centuries before Popper came up with this novel idea, in this very land, a great mind called Acharya Vasubandhu had not only proposed something on the lines of a falsifiability criteria, but actually practiced it. Acharya Vasubandhu started off as a Sarvastivadi in Abhidharmika and upheld a realist understanding of reality. Dharmas that possess their own subhava exist in a mind-independent fashion. But subsequently, under the influence of his brother Asanga, he revised his position and propounded the Yogacara school of Buddhism. In this vein, one of the criteria to demarcate relevance is the intrinsic resilience of a system. Is a system worked on the Kali Krama system with it, Kashmir Shaivism, confrontations that it overcame. Would it be possible for the system, Kali Krama, to evidence similar resilience in the modern context? Can it indulge into fruitful interlocutions with contemporary systems of knowledge, such as the cognitive sciences, the neurosciences, consciousness studies, philosophy of mind, phenomenology, etc.? Conversely, is it necessary for a system such as the Kali Krama to actually indulge in these kind of interlocutions? Are we demanding too much of a system which does not belong, which belongs to a different time and space? So I would be very grateful if you could answer this question. Thank you.
We which should remain philosophy absolute but also and but we see that in later period, Mahamaheshwar Abhinav Gupta writes Kram Keli, And it shows that it's very important during that period. So Krama stands towards Somanand's critique was that it's not just a prakriya but an entire philosophy of succession, of experience, of divine. And reducing it to just a method is not doing justice to it. Now the question is it relevant in the modern time? Yes, because cognitive sciences always deals with how. It does not tell us the why. For example, if strawberry is sweet, it is not telling us why the strawberry is sweet. So, Krama does that to us. Through Sattarka, it tries to navigate the internal world. Cognitive science has a third-person perspective. But to understand consciousness, which is substratum of all experiences, it is absolutely necessary to look within for the answer, and thus logical reasoning would be the right answer, and it will
Please conclude.
conclude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pragati, for that very incisive answer. My next question is to Tanmoy. You have spoken about the artistic representation of Buddhist terms of art which emerge out of the vast corpus of Buddhist philosophy. My question to you is about the conflict between form and content. For instance, you have referenced the insight or heuristic of shunyata, its representation in artistic forms. Now, Acharya Nagarjuna in the Mula Madhyamaka Karika very famously contends that those who make a thesis out of shunyata are incorrigible. Shunyata itself is a negation of all reified worldviews and philosophies. So he, in a way, points to the limitations of language to depict or represent shunyata. But can this limitation of language be transcended in an art form, which is the topic of your research? Can we actually transcend the limitations of language in art? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I think Nagarjuna's view is more relevant to the contemporary and modern art. It's here no contradiction, I think, because if you go any modern art gallery, you will see installation art, performance art, video art, and there is no static image. Rather, traditional art will see like a painting. It's static and fixed, object-centered. But modern and contemporary art is not object-centered. It is more process-oriented and experiential, and it will give us realization. So I think for Buddhist philosophy, and modern and contemporary art is more important, and it can give
Nalanda University and Professor for inviting me to participate in this debate. So in the interest of time, I'm not going to set the context, so I'll directly ask the question. So I have around 3 questions, but I would like to ask the most relevant one. So I'll try to ask the question on the relevance of Cham and Achara dance. So this is to Mr. Sring Doji. So as you and I know, so it's not an isolated phenomena for Bhutan. So today's youth, the young people, they do not take interest in the culture like Cham and Achara dance. So do you think that it will be relevant for Bhutan? Because as you rightly mentioned in your summary, Cham has a lot of the philosophical underpinnings. So today's youth, they are mostly distracted by the smartphones. They are into some other things. So they do not take interest in the cultural significance of the Cham dance and Achara dance and all. So how do you So will it not be a the wishful thinking to argue that charm dance is still relevant in today's day and age?
Thank you, sir, for your question. In my view, charm dance is very relevant to the youth because with rapid globalization and modernization, although the societies and the community changes, the afflictions such as anger, greed, ignorance, they timelessly exist. And through this, such as disharmony in the society, depression, anxiety, this has been created by those afflictions. And in this situation, charm dance provides something very important that modern technology cannot fully provide. It brings community together physically, spiritually, and unlike digital media, it creates direct human interaction and collective participation. So I have made a special reference to Raksha Mangcham, the dance of judgment of the dead. It teaches a timeless philosophies such as ethical living, mindfulness living. So I think it is very relevant to the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tsering, for your insightful response. So my next question is to Tenzin. So in your dissertation, you mentioned about Guru Padma Sambhava blessing Montawang as well. So my question to you is, Guru Padma Sambhava's, famously carried the teachings of ancient Nalanda into the Himalayan regions, including Mon. So fundamentally, he actually changed the local belief systems. So would you argue that he entirely erased the existing Himalayan cultures, or did this process actually represent a dynamic and successful adaptation of Indic wisdom to regional traditions?
Thank you, sir, for the question. So, before starting, I want to say, I personally believe what Guru Padma Sambhava did was actually a very nice job, since he didn't just erase the religion. He just blended his religion with the local tradition that was already existing. So this is what it shows, that true Indic wisdom enriches and evaluates the pre-existing culture, like instead of erasing it. Before 1950, Tawang Monastery was very much related to and very much dependent on Tibet. But after India gained independence, it somehow cuts the relationship. And people thought that maybe they won't follow Buddhism anymore. But it was not it. Like, they follow it till now, and they still followed it because till the time of the independence, Buddhism was not just a religion for them. It became the way of living. Like, they...
Kindly conclude.
Thank you.
Thank you for your response.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. And Sister Quỳnh Như from Vietnam, I have a question for you. It's so nice that your presentation focused on the how Kumarajiva shaped the Buddhist thoughts in China at his time, and even in the Southeast Asia today. And but sister, you present that the Kumarajiva focused on making his translation so beautiful and clear in Chinese, rather than being strictly literal. And so I want to know, did he actually create a uniquely Chinese form of Buddhism instead of seeing as the true bridge between the Indian and Chinese?
Thank you for your question. And actually, Kumarajiva writing skill make him become a important bridge between India and China. And if he had translated every word to literally, many deep Buddhist Indian thoughts will difficult understand for the Chinese people. So when he translated, he like the text like Saddhamma Buddhadika Sutta or Vimalakirti Sutta, he used the methods of sense by sense, allow the China society can easy to understand. And actually, he does not remove the Indian meaning. Instead, he have the Indian Buddhist thoughts. So
Kindly
by-
conclude.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And Sister Han, um, since the artistic style of Avalokitesvara changed so drastically in Chamba, then could we argue that the Cham people created something entirely new or separately from the Indian roots rather than just adapting existing Indian traditions?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. And in my research, the way seeing the Champa artist not separate, not completely separate from the Indian roots, rather than that is it Champa as the creative transformation from the Indian root. They receive the Indian Buddhist model and then receive according to their language. For example, the Lakshmi Ralokesvara statue in the Dongyung style represents the strong visual expression, the different ornaments the in the common.
Kindly conclude.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you to both the Pakshas for such an scholarly exchange. Now we come towards the end of today's panel discussion. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much for this discussion. We can now conclude that Indic systems which have proliferated in time and space, proliferated to distinct lands, possess an intrinsic resilience which make them relevant and make them adaptable to the challenges posed by the day and age. Thank you so much.
गते गते पार संगते बोधि स्वाहा.
Big hand for the entire team. The last panel for today, as Dr. Pranshu said, last but not the least, Dr. Pranshu's team, and from SBS PCR, a big round of applause. To do the honor, I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and our Madam Vice Chancellor to kindly come to the dais and do the honor. Please welcome them.
So first, Dr. Stalin, our postdoctoral student. Next, we have our student who is from the batch of 20 to 22, Thupten Jepa. He's a lecturer at Royal Thimphu College. And then we have Sister Venerable Fung. She's our PhD student here. She has been, again, batch 21-23 student. Now we have our Master Dissertation student, Pragati Prerna, Hindu Studies. Pragati. Then we have Historical Studies student, Tenzin Dorima from Arunachal Pradesh. Our student Tanmay Mitra, he is also a fine art student. He has been from Bangladesh. Then we have Sering Phunsok from Bhutan. Sister Nu from Vietnam. And Sister Han from Vietnam. So with this, we conclude the session. It was wonderful to listen to their views. Very hard work they have done. Thank you.